Gotta fire my joint up on this bitch.
Can't sleep slash I'm excited. So we're gonna go ahead and continue one more to Like That. Now, Like That was dropped March 26th, 2024. March 26th of this year. And just some lore about like when this dropped. So I was at work and that morning I had saw that Metro and Future dropped an album together. And I was like, "Oh shoot, like it's been a while since I've heard Future and Metro together. I love Future and I love Metro." And so I was really excited. So I turned the album on and I'm just chilling, doing my work, setting up the day for myself. And then it gets to Like That. And when they first dropped this album on Spotify, at least, there were no features on it. Like it just said Future and Metro Boomin. So I'm listening and then I hear Like That and I hear Kendrick. And I literally looked around like if people could hear in my headphones. I'm like, is this Kendrick that I'm hearing? There's no way. Because, Kendrick normally drops and then he kind of goes ghost for a little bit and then he might like come out here and there with a couple features, but it's not as fast as Like That was. And he had just dropped Mr. Morale. He had just done a tour. He had just done the Mr. Morale tour. And I was like, oh, he's going to be back in hiding for a minute. But no, he's on here. And I'm like, wait, hold on, hold on, hold on. So I had to literally rewind the song back and listen to it again. And then once I rewind it, I started listening to the lyrics and I'm like, wait, whoa. So I'm at work freaking out. I'm trying because, we're not supposed to have our phones on the floor with us. And so I'm like trying to go like to the break room, trying to see like what is going on. What I want to say is when all of these tracks were coming out, I had to stay away from all of the breakdown videos that people were putting out so fast because when I listen to the songs, I like to first listen to them like at least 3 times before and like break down what I can before I go into like watching other people's videos. And that's how I approach these breakdowns as well. Like, although I've already listened to the songs, when I'm reading these, I will read it one time through and like write whatever I catch, and then I'll take a break and then I'll come back and reread it again. And normally I'll find new connections, and then that's when I'll do like the deep researching, and then I'll take a break again and then come back a third time just to like make sure I didn't lose or miss anything. And then I will go to watch like breakdown videos. I'll go and see what Genius put in case I missed anything so that you guys are also getting like the stuff that I miss as well. But that's how I was approaching these songs too. So it was really hard to like be on social media around this time because I wanted to make sure that I was listening to the songs first before I watched any of the videos. And so, anyways, I just wanted to give some lore backstory of the excitement around this track dropping. So let us finally get into Like That. Disclaimer, I only included Kendrick's verse in this because yeah, it makes sense. So Kendrick says, "These ends talking out of their necks, don't pull no coffin out of your mouth. I'm way too paranoid for a threat. Hey, let's get it, bro." So when he says in the beginning, like when you're talking out of your neck, you're basically just saying things with no, like nothing to back it up, no validity to it. So he's saying that like Drake and J. Cole are just like talking, they're just saying stuff that they're the goats, that they're the top three, whatever. And when he says no coffin, it's a homophone for uh um for coughing. And so a homophone is a word used to describe like a sound, like what a sound makes. So no coffin, it's spelled Coffin, like a coffin that you like a vampire would live in. But the homophone is coughing like you're coughing out of your mouth. And he's saying I'm way too paranoid for a threat. So basically saying that, that first person shooter song was kind of like a threat. Then he says, "AA, let's get it, bro. DOT, the money, power, respect." So he's saying me dot. Um, I have money, power, and respect, but this could also be referencing towards Drake, Cole, and Kendrick because J. Cole in First Person Shooter, he says, is it me, Aubrey, or or is it K dot, Aubrey, or me? And so here it's kind of like lining up. The money could be Drake, power, or money could be in reference towards J. Cole, the power reference towards Drake, and respect towards Kendrick. Then Kendrick says the last one is better, saying respect is better. Say it's a lot of goofies with a check. So here I put Goofy is also a dog, and this first person shooter song was on Drake's For All the Dogs album. So he's saying there's a lot of goofies with a check. Check could be referencing money, but it could also be referencing the Nike check because Drake has a deal with Nike, and which is so funny because he just recently released the like Nocta shoes or whatever with Nike. I also put like a lot of unserious rappers in the game as well as we see with Yachty. I mean, I hope them sentiments symbolic. My temperament bipolar, I choose violence. So when he says I hope them sentiments symbolic, he's referencing to what Cole and Drake were saying on First Person Shooter about how they're gonna take him out, how they're the GOAT again. He's saying, I hope those are just like symbols and not you're actually saying that. Okay, let's get it up. It's time for him to prove that he's a problem. Ends clicking up, but cannot be legit. No 40 water. Tell. So, this first part where he's saying ends clicking up, he's talking about how Drake and J. Cole went on tour more like last year, was it? I think they just got done with their tour. And obviously, they clicked up for the first person shooter song as well. So he's saying that they're clicking up, but they cannot be legit. So, Be Legit was a rapper. Then he says, no 40 water. So, 40 is also a producer of Drake's, like Drake's producer, one of his producers. 40 Water is also a song by E40. Be Legit and E40 had a group called The Click. So, altogether, ends clicking up with, this is reference towards the E40 group, The Click, with Be Legit. He says, but cannot be legit. No 40 water. 40 is also known for using like an underwater effect in his songs. So this is had a few lines, had a few layers to it. He says, yeah, get up with me. F sneak dissin, first person shooter. I hope they came with 3 switches. So again, he's calling them out straight up. This is the first time we see Kendrick being like real straight up in his disses. He's saying, F sneak dissin. I'm calling you out, first person shooter. I hope they came with 3 switches. And we will see that Kendrick does come with 3 switches. So he's kind of saying, y'all started this, calling me out, saying, trying to make it seem like y'all were the greatest. Now I have to go into this war and prove you wrong. Kendrick continues, he says, I crash out like F rap, diss Melly Mel if I had to. So when you crash out over like something or someone, it just means like you're doing crazy things and like back to back, just going crazy. And dissing Melly Mel. So Melly Mel is a rapper known as Grandmaster Melly Mel, and he's one of the rappers that kind of started hip hop culture and was like a one of the originators, I guess. And so he's saying by him dissing Melly Mel, that would be literally dissing hip hop, and that's really crashing out because you're doing something crazy. But Genius also pointed out here that Melly Mel dissed Eminem, and then Eminem dissed him back, and then later Melly Mel went online and deleted the diss and publicly apologized. And Drake also deleted a diss. And J. Cole also deleted his diss and publicly apologized. Then Kendrick says, got two T's with me. I'm snatching chains and burning tattoos. It's up. So two T's is the head of security at TDE. So he's saying, I got my security with me. I'm snatching chains and burning tattoos. I'm thinking this is referencing Pharrell snatching Pharrell's chains that Drake bought. So snatching Pharrell's chains and then burning tattoos in reference towards the Lil Wayne tattoo that Drake got that Kendrick will mention later on in another song. Then he says, lost too many soldiers not to play it safe. This is reference back towards having the security guard with him. He's saying, we lost so many people that we got to make sure that we play it safe, have the security, have the straps, whatever it takes. If he walk around with that stick, it ain't Andre 3K. So we know that Andre 3K is referencing Andre 3000, the rapper. And he just came out with a flute album. So if you haven't heard it, go check it out. It's actually really good and calming. If you need some good meditation music or music you want to listen to, like when it's raining outside, when you're reading, throw on the Andre 3K album. But anyways, so he normally walks around with like a flute, a wooden stick, and Andre 3K is also known for being like more calm, more peaceful, and this is referencing towards J. Cole because J. Cole puts on this persona that he's like a little bit more calm and peaceful. And I'm not saying that he's not that, but Kendrick is. Then he says, think I won't drop the location. I still got PTSD. And so I think dropping the location could either be dropping it for them to meet up and fight it out, or actually dropping the location of Drake's house, which Kendrick does do as well. Then he says, Mother F the big three, and it's just big me and bum. So Kendrick is clearly saying, like, fuck the big three, it's just big me. The big three that Cole was talking about on the last song, like, no, it's just big me. And then he calls Drake a bum. Then he says, what? I'm really like that. So he's telling them, like, what? I'm really like this. I'm really from the hood. I'm from the culture. Like, I know what it's like to engage in this. And your best work is a light pack. So this is a play on words. Light pack meaning your best work is just light. It's not really heavy, has no weight to it. But this is also referencing D-Light or Daylight, which is a ghostwriter. And it's said that D-Light was the one to write Back to Back, which was the big diss that Drake had against Meek Mill. That was like such a big deal. He didn't even write it. It was a ghostwriter that wrote it for him. And that's what Kendrick is saying. Your best work is a light pack. Then he says, and Prince outlived Mike Jack. So this is again bringing in Prince and Michael Jackson. You know, Drake and Kendrick have been referring to themselves as each throughout this timeline. So, in this case, Prince did outlive Michael Jackson, and so he's saying, you know, my legacy is going to outlive your legacy. Then he calls Drake a bum again. He says, and bum. For all your dogs getting buried, this is a reference towards Drake's album For All the Dogs, and that is the album that First Person Shooter was on. And this album, like when it before it came out, he had released Slime You Out with SZA, and as I mentioned before, I love SZA, and her verse on that album or on that song was just hitting. So I was actually excited for All the Dogs. I was like, oh, this might be like a good album if it has SZA, if it has other like artists that are kind of in the same like, I don't know. I thought it was just gonna be like old school Drake. That's not what it was. It was not that. I turned it on and I turned it right back off. It was, I don't know, just a lot of like weird. It just wasn't like you're almost 50, Drake, and you're talking about this like hella disrespecting women, hella disrespecting like black people in America. Just like not a good album. It just wasn't good. But that was besides the point. He's saying here that he's going to bury that album. He's going to take it off the charts. with this song alone on top of everything else that he's going to drop after. Then he says, that's a K with all these nines. He gonna see Pet Cemetery. So the obvious thing here is he says K9 in reference back towards the dogs getting buried. K9 is another word for dog. K could also mean equal 10. And so he's saying, I'm a 10 with all these nines. I'm a 10 amongst these rappers who are just nines. Um, the K could also be a reference towards K dot, and it could also be a reference towards an AK-47, because then he says, with all these nines, nines being a 9mm pistol, saying he's going to see Pet Cemetery. Pet Cemetery is a novel by Stephen King, and it explores the idea of like bringing death back to life. But in the book, and it was also a movie, there's a cemetery in the backyard where like a bunch of pets were buried. So like dogs, cats, things like that. So he's put kind of puts a play on words there when he says he's going to see Pet Cemetery, saying that he's going to kill for all the dogs. He's going to take it off the charts. And then he ends with an bum. And that is like that. And so when this dropped, like I said, it had the internet going crazy. Everybody was trying to break down the lyrics. And to me, it was just exciting because it brought back the excitement of good music for one, but people were able to see that like Kendrick is a lyricist. And around this time, I was fighting so many J. Cole fans in my DMs, so many Drake fans in my DMs. I said so many, but it really wasn't that many. It was probably like two or three people. But I was ready for the war. Like I was at around that time, I was like in my anger stage of healing on my healing journey. And so I was mad at the world. Any little thing was like triggering me. And I was like, no, you're not about to play games with Kendrick and disrespect him, because people kept saying, "Oh, it'll be a good matchup. It'll be no, baby. It's not even close, and it never will be." I still got PTSD. Motherfuck the big three, nigga. It's just big me, nigga. I'm so tired of hearing Drake's name. I'm tired of hearing his name. I'm tired of hearing his voice. I'm just tired of him. I really wish that he would take his own advice that he had told us, that he was going to take a break after It's All a Blur tour. And then here he is, still releasing random songs, random videos of people from his past, for one, that have whole families. Sir, please take a break. Nevertheless, we must get into push ups. So, push ups was Drake's response to Like That. It was dropped April 19th, 2024. This was about two weeks after Like That was dropped. And so, we'll start off by kind of noticing, analyzing the cover art. There's not much to this one because it's just the label that you would see on like a men's shoe, and the size on it is a 7. This is basically Drake coming at Kendrick for being short and probably having a small shoe size. And then the beat of the sample for the beat is from Get Money from Biggie. So moving forward, I'm gonna do the beat breakdown and then also like analyze the covers because they also have meanings in the disses. So it starts off, as you heard, with the DJ moniker Who Kid. And Who Kid is a DJ that was with 50 Cent, that, like, around the time that 50 Cent was doing all of his disses as well. And this could also be Kendrick kind of setting up this diss that he's going to claim that Kendrick's son is not his, but in fact it's Dave Freeze, which Kendrick proves is not true. But let's get into it. Verse 1, Drake starts, I could never be nobody #1 fan. Your first #1, I had to put it in your hand. So this is a reference towards Future. I think it's on Like That. I know I didn't include his verse in this, but Future references or says something about Drake being like a #1 fan or something like that. He's saying I could never be a #1 fan. And then Future's first #1 was with Drake on Way Too Sexy. And so he's saying I had to put that #1 in your hand, which, I mean, that is a valid point. There's really nothing else to say. Good point, Drake. Then he says, you pussies can't be booked outside America for Nan. I'm out in Tokyo because I'm big in Japan. So this is a reference towards a woman. Her name is Just Tokyo on Instagram, and she's linked to both Drake and Future. There's a photo of her at the It's All a Blur tour, And then um, when they did Rolling Loud this year, there's a photo of her like outside of um, the trailer, and she's wearing "We Can't Trust You" merch. And then the caption of the photo, I think it says like "We still don't trust you" or something like that. And then at Rolling Loud is where Future and Metro Boomin first kind of like played like that before they dropped it. So it was kind of her like taking a side in this. And I think Drake is just using her name here and trying to put her in this situation to show Future, like, hey, I once had your girl, which we know Drake often does. But this is a clever use of words. He's saying, I'm big in Japan in reference towards like being inside of just Tokyo and being big inside of her. I don't know who wrote this. Whoever did, good job, because I don't believe it was Drake. That's besides the point. He says, I'm the hitmaker y'all depend on. Backstage in my city, it was friend zone. And so, again, referencing towards Rick Ross and Future, because like five out of the seven of their top charting songs, Drake is on. And so he's saying, y'all depend on me in order to be on the charts in the first place. Then he says, backstage in my city, it was friend zone. This could be in reference back towards Just Tokyo, who was at the It's All Blur tour in Miami. You won't ever take no chain off of us. How the F you big stepping with the size 7 men's on. So this is referencing towards Kendrick saying that he was going to snatch chains and burn tattoos and like that. He's saying you're not going to take no chains off of us. And then Big Steppin' is in reference towards Kendrick's album Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. He's saying, you don't, how are you big stepping when you have small feet, when you wear a size 7? This is the first time that Drake will take a hit at Kendrick's size. To me, it's really whack. Like, it's like when you're arguing with someone, or like when you're going head to head with someone and then they just call you ugly. Like you had nothing else you could think of, no better diss. He says, this is the bark with the bite and what's up? I know my picture on the wall when y'all cook up. Extortion baby, whole career you've been shook up. So he's just saying, again, referencing back towards Kendrick saying on like that he was going to bury for all the dogs. Drake is saying, yeah, this is a bark with bite. Like I'm a big dog. What's up? And then when he says, I know my picture on your wall when y'all cook up, I'm thinking he's talking about like being in the studio and having like a picture of Drake up on the wall. Basically, he's trying to say, y'all look up to me when y'all are making music. And extortion baby whole career, you've been shook up because Top told you drop and give him 50 like some push ups. Huh? Your last one bricked. You really not on shit. So this is when he says, because Top told you drop and give me 50, he's trying to say that Top has a lot more control over Kendrick's profits and like his contract, which, just a disclaimer, Kendrick is not signed to TDE anymore. He has his own record label now. But Drake is trying to say that when he was signed, and the reason why he split from them was because Top was asking for like 50-50 from all of his profits, which Kendrick will go on to confirm that's not true. But when he says your last one bricked, you really not on shit, this could be referencing back towards Mr. Morale, because when that album came out, people weren't really listening to it. That album hits a lot of deep topics that people are probably not ready to just hear and face. To me, I thought it had bangers on it, and I think now that it's given some time, like Kendrick makes albums for longevity. He doesn't make albums just to be relevant. Like he said, I'm not trying to be, you know, um, like relevant for the times. This is more than just putting out stuff. This is like my work. This is my messages. These are messages that I'm trying to convey to the public. And so most of the time, like albums like this don't really pop off at first. They come back a little bit later on, and that's how you get this like, oh, this is a classic album. So I think that's what's going to happen with Mr. Morale. And I think it kind of started happening more recently because of this beef, that people went back and listened to it and kind of like found some hidden gems on there. And I think as time goes on, it will be up there with like To Pimp a Butterfly and Damn. Got to add in the last video for the, because Top told you drop and give me 50 like some push-ups. This is also referencing a video that Kendrick posted, or someone posted of Kendrick, and he's just like in like a full uniform of clothes, like not workout clothes. He has like chucks on, I think, some dickies and like a wife beater, and he's just doing push-ups like on the street, and it just gives very LA culture. But he's referencing towards that. Then he says they make excuses for you because they hate to see me lit. Pull your contract because we got to see the split. So again, he's trying to tell Kendrick to pull his contract out so we can see that his funds are being split. The way you're doing splits, bitch, your pants might rip. You better do that MF and show inside the biddy. Maroon 5 need a verse, you better make it witty. Then we need a verse for the Swifties. So in this first part, when he says the way you doing splits, bitch, your pants might rip, the split could be in reference towards the split in the contract that he's been talking about. It could be the split from Whitney that Drake will try to say like happened, that they split. And it could also be the split that Kendrick did from TDE. He's saying you're doing a lot of splits, like your pants might rip. And this is just, I don't know, to me is an elementary line. But then when he says, you better do the show inside the biddy, this is a play on like gang culture. They, in the Bloods, they replace any C words, any words that start with C, with B. So instead of saying inside the city, he said inside the biddy. And then when he mentions Maroon 5 and the Swifties, it's because Kendrick did a feature on both of their songs. And I did a like mini read through breakdown of Bad Blood, the song that Kendrick did with Taylor Swift. So go back and listen to that if you haven't. But like we know that on those songs, at least for that one specifically, like they weren't just random verses that he was doing. Like he was actually trying to convey messages on those verses. And I'm pretty sure Kendrick strategically picked those people. But here Drake is trying to say that it was Top Dog that made him do all of these like features on pop artists albums or songs so that Kendrick could get more like attention and sell more albums and like hits and stuff, which just doesn't even make sense. He says, Top say drop, you better drop and give him 50. Pip squeak pipe down. So again, he's trying to like little bro Kendrick and say that Top controls him and what he drops and when he drops, which I think you're projecting there, Drake. Then he says, you ain't in no big three. SZA got you wiped down. Travis got you wiped down. Savage got you wiped down. So all three of those artists that Drake mentions outsold Kendrick on their last albums that they dropped. Again, like I said, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, it wasn't like nobody was really listening or talking about it. It was truly a Kendrick fan album, I feel like. And it's not till like now and more recently that people are going back to really listen again and recognizing that, it's a good album. And like I said, with time, it will come. Don't worry. Like your label boy, you Interscope right now. So his label is under Interscope Records. And being in a scope could also mean like when you're gonna, again, when you're shooting someone with like a sniper or something like that, you like have a scope that you can look through. And so he's saying you're gonna get shot and you go and feel the aftermath of what I write down. I'm at the top of the mountain, so you tight now. So this could be kind of referencing a tightrope, and this genius pointed this out. I didn't catch this, but like normally you have a tightrope like on the top of the mountain. Just to have this talk with your ass, I had to hike down. That's actually a really good line. But he's saying he had to stoop low to Kendrick's level and, talk to him, but also obviously calling out that Kendrick is short. Big difference between Mike then and Mike now. Again, he's bringing up Michael Jackson and his like legacy. What the F is this? A 20v1 in? So 20v1 is referring to all of the people that were dissing Drake at the same time. Like it was like that came out, and then Rick Ross came out with a diss. The Weeknd was also on the both albums that Metro and Future dropped that were like disses towards Drake. Who else was dissing Drake? I feel like everybody was dissing Drake at this time. And so he's saying, what is this, like 20v1? What's a prince to a king? He has son in. So again, we're bringing in the Prince references. Prince here, Kendrick, is always the one that's referring to himself as Prince. And a prince is what you are before you become a king. And he's saying, you're not, like, you're just my son. Again, he's sonning Kendrick. So on that line, Michael Jackson's son is also named Prince. So again, it kind of goes with the Prince being his son. Then he says, get more love in the city that you from in. Metro, shut your hoe ass up and make some drums in. Yeah, I'm the sixth god, I'm the front runner. So he's telling Kendrick that he gets more love than Kendrick does in his own city. And yikes. And then he tells Metro, because Metro is the one that, is the producer on the We Can't Trust You album. And he's telling him to shut up and make drums, which Metro is a producer. Like he wasn't talking. Like, yes, he could be referencing like Metro tweeting stuff and, putting stuff on Instagram as well. So whatever. Then he says, claim the six, and you boys ain't even from it. And when you boys got rich, you had to run from it. This is a reference towards The Weeknd and his management team. And The Weeknd obviously is from Canada, but he moved to LA. Cash blowing, able bread, out here tricking, out here tricking. Ish we do for bees, we doing for ends. What the fuck? So Cash is The Weeknd's manager, and he's saying that Cash is taking The Weeknd's money, and he's getting people's like gifts like for guys. And there's like a bunch of pictures of Cash on the sidelines of like courtside games for basketball, like buying his guy friends like watches and stuff like that, giving him just like different gifts. So Drake is saying like, why are you doing that? Then he says, jets, whips, chains, wicked, wicked, wicked. This is a reference towards Future, and Future has a song, I think it's called Wicked, and he says it like that, wicked, 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 wicked. Then he says, spend it like you trying to F boy, you trippin', boy, you trippin'. Drizzy Chippendale probably got your bitch Chanel. So it's said that Drake got Tokyo Chanel shoes, and she posted them. And he's saying with the Drizzy Chippendale, saying the cartoon Chippendale, and They were always fighting with a character named Pluto, and Future's like rap name, well, one of his rap names is Pluto, like his alter ego, Pluto. And Chippendale always outwitted him, so here he's referencing himself as that outwitting Future. Drake says, I just got him done, boy. Don't make me have to chip a nail. And we know that Drake gets manicures. He sometimes posts with his fingers painted. Rolling Loud stage, y'all were turned. That was slick as hell. Again, we know that Future and Metro Boomin played an early version of Like That at their Rolling Loud set. Then he says, shit'll probably change if your BMs start to kiss and tell. So this is referencing one of Future's baby mamas. Brittany Mealy is in a recent court case with him for custody or for child support. But Sierra, who is also one of Future's baby mamas, has a track called Kiss and Tell. So he's bringing in that, like those two connections to reference Future. Hugs and kisses, man. Don't tell me about no switches. I'll be rocking every effing chain I own next visit, A. And when he says hugs and kisses, this could be like XO, which is the Weeknd's little like company name, I guess. But when he says don't tell me about no switches, remember in Like That, Kendrick says they better come with 3 switches. So he's saying don't tell me about that. And he's also saying I'll be rocking all the chains because Kendrick says he'll snatch his chains. I be with some bodyguards like Whitney. Top say drop your little midget A better fucking, and then it goes into the chorus. So here Drake is calling out Whitney, saying that Whitney cheated on Kendrick with his bodyguard. And this could also be a reference towards the Bodyguard movie with Whitney Houston, in which Whitney and the bodyguard do form like a relationship. And then he's saying again that Top is telling Kendrick what to do. He says when he says to drop, and then he calls him a midget, which again, it's just dumb. It's like, it's all right. It's old now. Then it goes into the chorus, and Drake says, A, better drop and give me 50, A. Drop and give me 50, drop and give me 50. Ends really got me out here talking like I'm 50. Ooh. He says, Ends really got me out here rapping like I'm living. And so 50 Cent is known for dissing multiple people on his tracks, and here Drake is dissing multiple different people on his tracks, which was like a big issue that people have had with Drake coming back with these disses, is he never directly addresses Kendrick, whereas Kendrick is directly addressing Drake. Now on these first two, obviously Kendrick brings in J. Cole because he's referencing back towards the first person shooter. But moving forward, Kendrick focuses solely on Drake, but Drake will continue to like call him out, but then go around it and like call out other people. And it's like, no, you need to stick with Kendrick. But it's because he doesn't have enough like ammo, or he doesn't have anything on Kendrick because Kendrick lives a truthful life, that he doesn't have that to put in a whole song. But back to the verse. Verse 2 says, I might take your latest girl and cuff her like I'm Ricky. So Rick Ross used to be a correctional officer. And so again, he's referencing back towards this. This whole first part is like reference towards Rick Ross. Can't believe he jumping in this end turning 50. Every song that made it on the chart he got from Drizzy. Spend that little check you got and stay about my business. So there is a lot of Rick Ross's songs where Drake is on, and they worked together for like a long time. So, I mean, again, Drake is right here. Like, ends shout out to the hooper that be busting out the gritty. So, John Morant is who he's referring to. He's a basketball player who plays for the Grizzlies, and he tweeted in support of Future and Metro when Like That dropped. And so it looks like Drake was a little salty about that. We know why you mad, and I ain't even tripping. All that little heartbroken Twitter ish for bees. So there's a rumor that Drake went on a date with John Morant's ex, Brooklyn Nicole, And so he's saying, I know why you're mad. You're on here on Twitter, like, tweeting that you support them, but it's really because I took your girl or I was with your girl. Then he says, this is for all the top dogs. Drop and give me 50, drop, drop. All that effing song y'all got did not start the beef with us. This ish been brewing in a pot, now it's heating up. And so he's saying that the like that song didn't start the beef, which we know that. And the beef has been brewing for years. I don't care what Cole think. That dot ish was weak as fuck. Champagne trippin', he's not effing easing up. I put, are you saying Kendrick's song was weak? Like that was weak? No, baby, not even close. um, and then Genius pointed out that Cole stated Kendrick was one of the greatest at the Dreamville Fest after he backed out of the battle. So, a little lore behind that. J. Cole came out with a diss on this like EP that he dropped, and it said like might delete. It was called Might Delete Later. And he was getting back at Kendrick, and then he deleted the song, I think literally like the next day. And at the Dreamville festival that he had, I think the week that he dropped that song, he publicly came out and said that he wanted to like end the beef, that he wasn't about that, and apologized to Kendrick, which, to each their own. I respect J. Cole for doing that. I think it was a good business move on him because, as I mentioned earlier, people were thinking that it was going to be a good matchup. And I just think that although Cole is very talented, he knows that one, Kendrick wasn't coming at Cole like, as a diss or anything. Like it was just friendly fire. And it's also rumored that Schoolboy Q called J. Cole and told him that, like, hey, Kendrick doesn't really want to involve you in this. Like, it's best that you kind of step aside. And so J. Cole was like, yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone. He says, and calling Top to see if Top want to piece it up. Top want to piece it up. Top want to piece it up. Nah, pussy, now you on your own when you speaking up. So again, he's trying to say that Top is controlling Kendrick, and that Kendrick, whenever he needs to like, end it or get out of something, he has to call Top to figure like get a yes or no. Basically saying you're gonna have to call Top to end this beef. He says you done rolled deep to this, it's not effing deep enough. Begging Kaisenat, boy, you not effing beating us. So it's said that Kendrick's team asked Kai to stream like that. Um, and, you know, both artists have been including streamers in dropping. It's just like a thing now in the culture and the industry in order because, these streamers have a wide range of people, fans that they can access. And so it's an easy way to get the music out there for people to hear. Numbers wise, I'm out here, you not effing creeping up. Money wise, I'm out of here, you not effing sneaking up. Cornball, your show money, merch money, free to us. So he's just trying to say that he has more numbers than Kendrick, which is not true. He has more money than Kendrick, and that basically, like, his shows are so expensive that his shows are just merch fees to like other rappers. I'm gonna let you ends work it out because I seen enough. This ain't even everything I know to wake the demon up. This ain't even everything I know to wake the demon up. Drop and give me 50, all you F ends teaming up. And then at the end, he just is like doing a outro saying like drop and give me 50, drop and give me 50. Drake kind of like held his own around this time, although, it wasn't, top tier. It was pretty good for Drake. And especially against Kendrick, like if I have to be honest. And I tried to approach, this going into this being as honest as I could. I had already not really been messing with Drake, like I said, because I had done my own research on him and been hearing about everything before it became like, or before it was put in these songs. And on top of that, like just his music in general, I just wasn't feeling. But some more like information around this time. Drake also dropped another diss song. It was called Tailor Made Freestyle. And it used the AI voice of Pac and Snoop Dogg, which are both like, big LA rappers, to diss Kendrick. What ended up happening was a Tupac's estate sued Drake and made him take it down because they didn't approve of him using Tupac's AI voice. And so he had to take it down. But I just put like some notes that it's important to point out from the disc because it's Kendrick will point out some of the things that were said in the tailor made freestyle, which Kendrick knew that Drake was going to drop already. So some pointers. Again, Drake uses AI Pac to address Kendrick, and in these verses, Kendrick or Drake is making the AI Pac tell Kendrick, like, I thought that you, because it was taking a while for Kendrick to respond to push-ups. And so people were saying, like, oh, where's Kendrick? Like, he's just gonna dip out again and go ghost. Like, he couldn't hold his own. Which again, y'all, good art takes time, babes. And I know it's a cool thing if you can like drop a song fast and it be good. But I think that there was, reasoning and strategic mindset around when Kendrick dropped. And then Drake, again, he's trying to say that he's taking too long to drop. He uses Pac to point out Kendrick's height again and saying that Kendrick would never be Pac. And again, this is in Pac's AI's voice. Is that AI voice? Pac's AI voice. And although like this is rap beef, and I do understand, like, you should be able to like do heavy hitters. Like that's a pretty heavy hitter to have Kendrick's idol, the person that he looks up to and tries to be, not tries to be, but really, inspires him, to have him say like you'll never be me. Like, oof, that's rough. But okay. Then Drake says, Drake tries to say Kendrick is not a boogeyman, and now when it comes down to it, you haven't like dropped anything. That's what he says in the song. Drake uses Snoop Dogg to address Kendrick. He mentions the passing of the torch at the House of Blues, and he says something like, I should have never passed the torch to you, or something like that. And we know that when Snoop Dogg did that, like, it was a really big deal for Kendrick, and, he was crying. Drake says that Kendrick moved to New York due to issues with Whitney, so here he's addressing the split with Whitney, supposedly, which again, Kendrick will go on to prove was wrong and was not the truth. Drake then raps from his own voice. He states the push-ups track only took 2 hours, so again, he's trying to play on the fact that he was able to like release a good, decent track in 2 hours, which, okay, that's fine. One, it was not that deep of like a song, like most of the lines are pretty surface level. There's some good lines in there for sure. Two, he wasn't directly addressing Kendrick. Again, he's adding all these other people in there. Drake is also saying that Kendrick had to wait to drop because Taylor Swift was dropping first, and I think this was for Meet the Grams, or no, maybe Euphoria. Um, and so he's saying that Kendrick had to wait because it would have overshadowed his releases from when Taylor dropped. Then he also saying that Anthony set everything up, and Kendrick had no say in like what was going on in this beef, in his career. Like again, Drake is also saying on the song that Kendrick can't have the same result as what happened on Control, the Control verse, because we know that when Kendrick dropped the Control verse, like everybody was praising Kendrick and he got like more attention. He's saying that you calling us out on like that isn't going to get that same reaction. It's not going to put you anywhere. And then the last point I put is Drake is then talking over the beat. Like at the end of the song, he just goes on a rant, and I put this is very similar to what Nicki did in her diss against Megan Thee Stallion, and I'm not going to go into. But in this rant at the end of the song, Drake is like, I don't know, he better have come back with a fucking quadruple entendre or some shit I can't understand. Like, he was just going through it. He was going through it. But that is the end of the like tailor-made freestyle. Like I said, I didn't break it down because one, it's deleted. You can't look at it because, but in the breakdown videos that I was looking at just to like see what people were saying and stuff like that, they were using clips of it, so I was able to hear it. Because to be honest, when it dropped, I didn't listen to it because I just knew it was gonna be trash. Yeah. But all the other ones I did give a listen to because I did want to know. Like although I knew that Drake didn't have a chance, I did want to see if he put up a fight. And I wanted to hear like what was going on. Obviously, we knew that Kendrick was going to be referencing things that Drake says in his song, so I needed to know like what was being said.